Welcome back to my shop. This whole video is going to be entirely on how to make the table chairs. I will have a follow-up video on the process of making the table that goes with it, and in the end of the video you'll get a sneak peek of what it actually looks like. So basically it all started out with these MDF templates that I made from templating off of my printed patterns from my SketchUp model. So I have a paper template, I just glue it on, cut out all my templates right here, and then I use these templates to replicate all of my pieces that I need onto the wood. And then from there, it's just a lot of cutting and sanding. So be prepared for that. The first thing I'm doing is I'm taking my rough sawn lumber and I am drawing in pencil, tracing the template and then rough cutting it out. Here I'm cutting the actual seat portion of the chair. This is 2 pieces of wood glued together. And then next I'm cutting the back legs, and then you'll see me cutting some of the back supports. Once I'm done rough cutting everything out, I will then glue each piece with some CA glue to my template to then use on my router table. This is the method that I use to actually attach my templates to my wood pieces. I'm just using some regular blue painter's tape on both the template and the wood piece, and then just taking a couple dots of CA glue in between, and then applying the activator, and then just pushing them together for a good tight bond until I can pull it off. You have to be very careful when using a router bit like this. I always try to start in a corner or on the end grain and work my way around from there, because if you start in the middle of a cut, it's bound to catch on the bit and take a chunk out of it that you don't want taken out of. After I finished cutting all the edges on my router table, I just lightly pry apart the template from the wood piece, and you'll see just how easy it comes apart. For this piece in particular, it was a little difficult to just glue a skinny template to the bottom portion. It wasn't stable enough to hold, so I actually made this jig that I can actually router 2 pieces at once in the jig just by flipping it around. And the bit isn't deep enough to go all the way through, so I will be changing out this bit later to get the remainder of that wood taken off. But it's just going to be the opposite. Instead of a bottom bearing bit, I'm going to be using a top bearing bit and lowering it as much as possible. The seats are made out of 2 pieces of wood glued together in the middle. I'm first rough sanding to get any ridge off of that glue joint, and then for this pattern, instead of taping and gluing, I'm just putting 4 screws in it, 1 in each corner, which are then going to be covered on the underside so you don't see a hole. After routing the seats on my router table, they needed some additional shaping for these inside 90-degree corners. So before I took the template off, I used that as a guide with my hammer and chisel to clean up these inside corners and match the template. Okay, I did a quick mock-up with a couple pieces from the chair. I laid out this top rail so that I could get the spacing for the legs at the proper distance. It was just twisted by like an 1/8 inch. So this is doweled in place. Nothing's glued together. The legs are only going to be attached with a couple pocket screws and then wood glue and a couple dowels in each corner. When I laid these out, I did a center hole here, which is going to be covered, which is indicating the height of my crossbars. And the reason I made this jig for this back bar is because I made all these long. And I'm cutting them as I go, and I'm labeling this one top 1. And this is going to be the first crossbar. The distance changes, but not a lot. It's maybe like 3/16 from that one to this one because of the angle of the leg. But what I'm doing is I cut one side on, this is the last one. I have 6 chairs, so this is the last one for the tops. It's cut on just like it's like a heavy 1-degree bevel. What I have here is I have this set up so that the angle of the cut for this will be the proper square cut to line up with the edges of that. And then I have here just a little 1/8 inch shim taped down to cut this side because I want it to be on just a slight taper. And then for this side, when I was cutting it this way, it's got to be opposite, so that's why this is taped. I just moved this over to this side to the other end to get the same 1-degree pitch. So all I'm doing is cutting it to length. It's 14 and like a 32nd. It's like a 16th light for the top one. I'll cut this one and show you how it fits. So here's the top one that I just cut, and it's labeled number 1 for the first crossbar and top. And I'm just centering it on those little indicating marks that I put to indicate center. And it's not flush, it's roughly 3/16 setback. So just like that, pressure fit, fits very nice. For all my connecting pieces, I am using solid oak with 3/8 dowels for the backrests and 1/2 inch dowels for the other supporting posts. Now, I know a lot of woodworking purists would say, why dowels? Why not just do mortise and tenon? Well, quite frankly, I don't have the right kind of tools to do the intricate mortising on these curved pieces, and it's just too time consuming. Solid oak dowels is going to be just as strong as a tenon. And for me, it's a lot simpler to make. So I made this simple little jig, which was templated off of the same table leg or chair leg. Made the fit this, slides over the end. And it perfectly centers 2 holes both ways for me to put 2 dowels in. That's going to be all of my connecting points for all these legs. So for one of these pieces, I have to make a little intricate cut. And here's the pattern you can see. And this is the same angle as the off-axis angle as the back leg. So this is set to 10.3 degrees, and I have this right here is your depth stop on this saw. Flip this down and adjust this screw, and it won't lower any more than this. Just need to clean it up a little with my chisel, and that's it. All right, finally done sanding and prepping everything. Okay, finally done the most arduous task, sanding and prepping and drilling all my pieces. So now I'm going to glue them all together, turn them into chairs. As I'm gluing this together, I'm just using long 3-foot dowels and then hammering it into place with a soft blow hammer, and then cutting it with my pull saw to the length that I need, and then putting in the next piece. The ring around the bottom portion of the chair that's actually the seat are all pocket screwed together into the legs themselves. It was a simpler way to assemble it than adding dowels, and it's equally as strong. Okay, finished up my chairs, and they came out great. They're very sturdy, comfortable, and yeah, they look great. And stay tuned for a follow-up video on the build of the table that goes with this set. I didn't want to put it all together in one video because of how long the process was to actually make these chairs. I broke it up into 2 separate videos, so stay tuned for the future update on how I built this table, which is also an extendable dining room table. So not only is it a 6-person table, it's also an extendable table with a removable leaf. Needs a little adjustment still, but the cool feature about this is the hidden wheels. So I can close it with just a single finger. Done. So stay tuned for a future video on this. Very cool project. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Please like and subscribe so you can stay tuned for future updates and videos. Thanks.